Hi, welcome to the Communication and Soft Skills Foundation course. I welcome you all to yet another new topic. Something what we started yesterday. If you've been following the video series of Communication Foundation course, you must have been introduced to this topic called syllable stress. Like pronunciation, we have already discussed that an IPA chart. We have extensively followed the rules and the techniques, how to learn the sounds, how to apply it, and how do I go back, identify the sounds that I have a challenge for, and how do I work towards it. So that's one part of your pronunciation. The other part of your pronunciation is also one of the magic tool, which is your syllable stress. Let me make a note of the name of this topic. So you must be wondering what is this new topic again and why are we again being introduced to something very important. Repeatedly I end up using this phrase because it is actually important not just to learn the sounds but also to learn and understand this particular subject of English pronunciation. So what is syllable? So syllable is nothing but a part of your word. It's one of the it's totally a part of the word, but some of the parts of the word make a complete word. Let me make you all introduce to an example so that you can relate to this topic, and hence we can get started with it. So what we can do is let's take these examples. So by the time I complete writing it on the board, I want you guys to really make an attempt to pronounce these words, and I'll help you understand how to pronounce it correctly and also to learn a technique for maybe other words which ends with something similar suffixes. How do we go about and pronounce these words? So the last word I have for you all is okay. So we have this word followed with a word of profession, followed with a quality, and then followed with again a hobby or a skill. So words which are being mentioned here have the same root word, but however the form, the meaning and the pronunciation is different. So words which are mentioned here take different pronunciation technique. So let's start pronouncing it. It's photo, photographer, photographic, photography. Once again, photo, photographer, photographic and photography. So the reason I am giving you all this example, for simple reason, though it's the same root word, we are giving a different pronunciation altogether to it because of this topic called syllable stress. English as a language is a rhythmic language. It follows a certain music while we speak. Hence, it is difficult for a lot of native speakers if we do not follow the music of the language. Apart from getting the sounds correct, knowing the meaning of the word, if you are not familiar to give that right stress, you end up giving a different meaning and different word contextually. So words such as content and content that I have been highly discussing in almost all my pronunciation modules. Two different words, two different contexts and two different meanings. The moment I interchange, I end up giving a different word altogether, and hence I confuse the listener. I do not maintain effectiveness in communication, I do not maintain clarity, and I am unprofessional. So when I do not give out the information in a right sense, on a serious lines, I might be regarded as an unprofessional person because I'm not following the guideline, the rule book of the pronunciation technique. So all you have to do is understand this topic in detail to learn and get the mastery over the entire word pronunciation. Like I've already quoted this example yesterday. A machine has a lot of components. Let's take the example of a laptop or a computer. It has a lot of components attached to it. If one of the component which has no functionality and it doesn't really support the computer to function, the entire computer can go for a mismanagement, or it is not beneficial for us to use the computer for a certain purpose because one of the part it's not functional. Likewise, in pronunciation, or when I pick up a word, when I'm not applying the right stress, when I'm not applying the right enunciation of the sounds, I give a different pronunciation to it. I pronounce it quite unpleasant, and hence I make, or rather give tough time to the listener to get the word correct. So we will understand what is a syllable, and like we have already discussed, it's the vowel sound in a word, and it is the building block of a word. If I have to really put syllable, the word syllable in definition, it is also the beat of a sound. So when I say beat, when I give out a word, I give out the word in the breaks to understand the syllables better, and that's nothing but your syllable. So to understand syllable, I would like to really give you an example. So how do we define it is something very simple. We have to really understand what is syllable and what is stress. So syllable general, it's a unit of speech, either a whole. So I want your attention while I'm speaking. So it's a unit of speech, either a whole word or one of the parts into which a word can be divided or separated, usually containing a vowel sound as its nucleus. One premise that we all have to follow today while we're learning syllable stress and while we'll explore this topic in detail is one word, one stress. That is what English language follows. So we have certainly something called secondary stress, but however the primary stress is important. And let's, for the sake of making it more simpler, let's accept that one word, one stress. And well, we also have primary stress and the secondary stress as well for few words. So we will understand this little later on. Once again, it's a unit of speech, either a whole word or part of the word. Let's look at these examples. I'll take these examples off for right now, but I would suggest if you can make a note of it to understand and get this topic better. So this word followed with this, then again with this, with a concluding this word, plays a very vital role to understand this topic. Only when you get these words up or right in pronunciation, you have mastered the art of syllable stress. So let's move on. Like I said, syllable is a unit of a speech or a whole word or one of the words. The words such as bye and the other word is hello. So when I say bye, let me use it, say it through a clap method. So when I say bye, I just have one syllable there. I do not break the word, and therefore it is one syllable word. So there is one syllable. And then we have a second word which is hello. So when I break this word and I use the same clap method, hello. So once again it's hello. So I'm breaking it. It's a two syllable word because there are two vowel sounds attached to it. So hello has two syllables to it. Okay. So once again, bye has one syllable and hello has two syllables. So when I am defining syllable, I say it's the unit of speech, either a whole word or part of the word. Is nothing but your syllable is defined as. And how do I define stress? Now that we're defining the word, or now we will move on to understand the second part of the topic, which is stress. When a word or syllable is pronounced, so when a word or part of the syllable is pronounced with greater force than other words in same sentence or other syllables in the same word, is what is defined as stress. So when I say stress, when I say this part of the word is stressed, it doesn't mean that it takes over the mental stress. It doesn't mean that it takes a mind stress or something. It certainly means this part of the word is little louder, it's longer, and it is clearer. It is high on pitch too, because to make it presentable in terms of pronouncing it correctly and to give the right pronunciation to help the listener get the word correctly. So is where this part of the word is stress in the case of the word hello. And now that we're talking about syllable stress, let's also understand there are a lot of factors influencing stress. So we've been talking about factors, about how do they manage and how do they help us to get the stress language, rather English is a stress language definition. In Old English, if I have to really say, many words were monosyllabic. So when I say monosyllabic, I mean something like this, the word by. So by is a monosyllabic word because it just has one syllable. If the word was multisyllabic, the first syllable of the word was always stressed. So in Old English followed a different set pattern for pronunciation, and it also had a different set of vocabulary and choice of words too. So Old English was majorly used by Shakespeare, and it followed a different pronunciation pattern, and the written English was also completely different. So in Old English, the monosyllabic word was limited. There were not many words. So the word which is multisyllabic, the standard syllable rule that was followed was the first part of the word was stressed. So when I give you an example of multisyllable word, let me share this example with you for your better understanding. Maybe we can use the word, okay, I am thinking it is visible to you all. Okay, now this has 4 syllable, information. So this is multisyllable word, and the general rule followed by Old English was the first part of the word was stressed. Okay, so this is to do with the Old English. So now that we are talking about those words beginning with the prefix, again followed a different rule in Old English. If the word began with the prefix, the next syllable was automatically stressed. And I'm again talking about Old English. I'm not talking about something which is standard, something which is like, which has been started to be used now. It was only used in the Old English times. So if a word had a prefix could be any word which gets started with the root form of the word, which is either a or either words such as any word which is in the start of the word. So that followed a similar standard pattern where after the prefix we were enunciating or we were stressing the second part of the word after prefix. The straightforward and consistent pattern of syllable stress was disrupted, and this happened when after various languages stress were entered into the middle modern English. So during the modern English time, there was so much of interference of your first language, maybe like our Indian languages if we have to really talk about, languages such as Hindi, Telugu, Odia, Marathi, whatever is being spoken as your first language, your native language, that music or that particular stress pattern was introduced subconsciously in English, and hence we sound very different each time when we speak English from certain regions of India, be it a region from Karnataka, be it a region from Andhra Pradesh or somebody from Chennai. The moment they speak English, we can identify without a second thought that this person belongs to this particular region, because we all followed the music of our native language, making it appear in our English language too. So moving on to understand more further, we have to really get this correct, because there is no governing principle to dictate pronunciation, grammar and spelling rules for English language. Many factors affect stress patterns. So this is a point that I am going to talk about, because we do not have a specific authority which has been guiding and ruling English language as such, but however we follow UK as a standard English, what you say, with accent, and standard English rule we all are supposed to follow UK as, in form of accent, in form of, the English language pattern. These factors include but are not limited to standards of pronunciation, the formality of the speaking and the dialects. So when I say dialect, I still mean the same thing, which is when my regional influence of my first language is interfering English language. Hence I sound the way I sound, like I speak my first language, I speak English in a similar pattern. So syllable stress, there are main two types of syllable stress recognized by the IPA. So when I say IPA, I'm sure by now we all got to know that we are talking about the IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet Association. So the symbols used to denote stress can be found on the on the section of the IPA for few dictionaries. All the world level primary stress is denoted by superior vertical stroke. So when you're next time reading dictionary or getting to learn pronunciation, you have to really understand this. So when I'm writing this word, and you see a mark of this kind, so this means this part of the word has to be stressed. Likewise, you might end up seeing any other word. Let's take table as an example. You might end up seeing a strike over here, because table is a two-syllable word, and this takes the stress pattern is on the first part of the word. That's something I have to remember. At the word level, primary stress is denoted by superior vertical stroke as in apple, and secondary stress is denoted by inferior vertical stroke. So like I said, we all have to follow the guidelines that there is something called primary stress and a secondary stress. Primary stress is important to get the pronunciation correct, but however we are supposed to follow the rule of secondary stress too. So there are a lot of words in English language which takes the secondary stress as part of the pronunciation. So you are supposed to just follow the way it has been said and the way it has been communicated. A syllable receiving either primary or secondary stress is considered to be a stressed syllable. So now that we have identified the definition of syllable, we have also identified the definition of stress. Let's understand what is a stressed symbol. I repeat once again, a syllable receiving the primary stress or the secondary stress is considered to be the stressed syllable. So we are not supposed to ignore the secondary stress for simple reason. That is equally important in terms of getting the pronunciation correct. Now understanding there are also syllables that receive no stress, and no symbol of any type is placed on a non-stressed syllable. So part of the word, like example apple, now this has taken this as the stress, and hence this is called the stressed symbol. Now these, the leftover letters, the leftover sounds, these are your non-stressed syllable. They do not receive any stress. In fact, they are followed in terms of how we pronounce this part of the word. They are followed in the opposite manner totally to pronounce this part of the word. That is, I am louder here, I am clearer here, I am also increasing a little bit of my pitch level, and my sound is a little bit elongated. Likewise, this part of the word is not longer, it is not elongated, it is not given with that high pitch, and hence it is unstressed or non-stressed syllable. That's something you have to keep in mind. There are also syllable that receives no stress. So this is what I am talking about, which doesn't receive any stress. Stress pattern. This is important to remember that good listening skills are crucial to mastery of the concept called syllable stress. So next time when you are listening to anybody whom you admire in terms of their language ability, start concentrating how are they applying the stress pattern, how are they pronouncing the word, how are they giving out the information and the conversation. start with these observations. Language learning is all about copying and listening with an immense concentration, and the concentration cannot be faded away until and unless you actually make notes and start the application part of it. So, next time when observing, if you get a fair chance, start making notes. If you do not get a fair chance, maybe you can just concentrate, get the information in your mind or brain, and start the application process when you are next time talking to somebody in English language. That is what the practice and suggestion says about syllable stress. So, understanding there are different kind of words, syllables, and they are monosyllabic words, bisyllabic words and multisyllabic words. So, when I say monosyllabic words, let me make a note of it for your benefit. You can really look up in terms of getting more information. Okay, monosyllabic, bisyllabic and multisyllabic. For our benefit, let's take few examples. Chair, table, and let's take this example as well. Once again, chair is monosyllabic because it's single syllable which is being stressed in the entire word. Then we have table, which is bisyllabic where the syllables are two when I break the word with a clap method. So, I want you all to practice and repeat after me. The word table has two syllables. And then we have a word interesting. So, let's use the clap method to identify the number of syllables. It is interesting. It is interesting. So, it is more like trisyllable or beyond two, hence it is multisyllabic word. So, these are your monosyllabic, bisyllabic and multisyllabic word. It is very important for me to understand in order to place the right stress when I am giving the word pronunciation. Okay, a monosyllabic word, if I have to really define this, what we'll do is we'll go by the definition of each word to understand this better. So, monosyllabic word is a word which contains only one syllable. Chair, buy, all these two words, they have only single syllable. In monosyllabic words, most of the syllables are not denoted by the stroke except when they stand within a sentence. So, when I am making or rather pronouncing these words, or when I am looking up to these words in dictionary, you do not see any denoted symbol, something like an or just additional mark or something of this kind in order to pronounce this word. So, you are supposed to stress the entire word for getting the right pronunciation. So, the word is chair and I am supposed to stress the entire word as chair. In monosyllabic words, most of the syllables are not denoted by stroke, hence the exceptions are they stand out within the sentences. Examples of again other monosyllabic words are you, and maybe the other example that you might say is good, tie as one of the examples again, fan as one of the examples where I am stressing the entire word and I am not giving any partial stress or not unstressing the other part of the word, rather I am stressing all the entire word. Once again examples you, good, tie, fan, chair, buy. So, let us take one example and understand this. Okay, let me take a different marker. So, this is written this as a transcriptive form of in linguistic. So I have a short oo sound, hence it is good, not good, because I am not giving a long stress to it, and the entire word is stressed to give out the right pronunciation. Moving on to understand more about bisyllabic word. Bisyllabic word is a word which consists of 2 syllables, okay, and the examples could be table, the examples can be hello, examples can be bottle as one of the example again. So these words where we have two syllables, first part of the word is stress as per the rule of syllable stress if it is noun or an adjective. The second part of the word is stress if it is verb. So we will hold down for the rules for time being. We will just focus on understanding monosyllabic definition, bisyllabic and multisyllabic definition. So there are 4 common patterns that can be noted in pronouncing and transcribing 2 syllabic words at the word level. So let's understand this in terms of getting this up. So type 1, I want you guys to look at the slide now. So type 1, this type is exemplified by 2 syllable words in which the first syllable receives the primary stress and the second syllable receives no stress. Like we have already discussed, primary stress is is where the complete stress is given in a word, and secondary stress might take a partial stress or might not take a stress when you are pronouncing the word. So this is something to identify. And then moving on, let's look at these set of examples. Table has 2 syllable, open has 2 syllable, paper again a 2 syllable. Let's concentrate on this part. I want you guys to look at the cursor where I am placing. So I am placing the cursor here, I am talking about this denoted mark. So the moment I see the denoted mark, I am supposed to stress that part of the word. Hence this word paper takes the stress here, and the right pronunciation for this word is paper. It's paper, paper, open, table. And let's look at these words. Morning, again there is a stress here in the first part of the word. Kindness, college, happens, practice, radish, rhythm, biscuit, closest, closest, closest. So it takes a s sound, not a z sound. Closest, tosses, busy, blissful, blissful, and that's on. So what we'll do is let's identify the type 2. Type 2 is exemplified by 2 syllable words in which the first syllable receives no stress and the second receives the primary stress. Now something what I've discussed yesterday, when I'm giving out a word which is which has a noun form to it, I stress on the first part of the word. When I'm giving out word which is a verb, I stress on the second part of the word. So getting this up to understand, the type 2 rule clearly says that a primary stress can be given to the second part of the word in English language, and that is one of the rules of syllable stress. Moving to the slide, let's focus on few examples to understand this better. So example is above, it's a verb, above, it's a schwa, it's second part of the word which is stressed. Behind, complete, complete, complete. Then we have convince, 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 defeat, discuss, discuss, accept, insight, insight, obtuse, obtuse, pretend, pretend, regard, regard, forgive, forgive, suppose, suppose, today, mistake. So these are your words which takes the stress on the second part of the word. So they basically taking the primary stress, but however the stress is on the second part of the word. So let's not get confused with regard to getting this concept correct about primary stress and secondary stress. The primary stress can be very much on the second part of the word, and the primary stress can be on the first part of the word too. If it is on the first part of the word, the primary stress, the word is pronounced the way it is supposed to be pronounced, and they are majorly the set of nouns and adjectives which takes the primary stress on the first part of the word. Likewise, the second part of the word, if the primary stress is given to the second part of the word, majorly they are verbs and they convey an action word in when we are giving the word as the pronunciation. That's something we have to keep in mind. Moving on, the next slide, we'll concentrate. Let's look at the slide. Type 3. Type 3 is exemplified by one syllable receiving the secondary stress. Although it is more common to have the first syllable receive the primary stress and the second syllable receive the secondary stress. The other variation is often used in pronunciation. Like we just discussed about it. Type 3 is exemplified by one syllable receiving secondary stress. Okay, there are certain words that can receive a secondary stress as well, and hence they give out different meaning. One such word that I would like you all to get introduced today is, I guess I can take this off, this word. Now this word functions as a noun, this word functions as a verb and an adjective too. So the word pronunciation can be present, 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 present and present. So this is what it means, that it can take the primary stress can be at the first part of the word, or it can be at the second part of the word. That's something I have to keep in mind. Moving further on the next, in continuation with what we have been talking about, type 4 is exemplified by both syllables receiving primary stress. These words are usually in the form of compound nouns. I have to keep one thing in mind. There are a lot of words which function as compound words in English language. To keep this very clear in terms of understanding, there are two words which come together to give out one word specifically. Words such as laptop, desktop, hardware, software, and there are a lot of such words. So the rule or the type 4 rule clearly gives out the declaration that type 4 is exemplified by both syllables receiving primary stress. These words are usually in the form of compound nouns. So words such as baseball, it can take the second part of the word as a stress. Hot dog, so the both words can be stressed here. That is what the rule says. Moving on in continuation to what we have been learning right now, multisyllabic words. We've just discussed what multisyllabic word is, a word which has more than 3 syllables in a word. There are a lot of words in English language which has more than 3 syllables to it. Words such as unexceptional, exceptional, interesting, information, conversation, communication, all these words are your multisyllabic words. So what does the definition says? Multisyllabic word is a word which consists of more than 2 syllables. Like we are giving terms, monosyllable words are with 1 syllable, bisyllabic words are with 2 syllables, anything beyond 2 syllables are your multisyllabic words. To keep in mind, multisyllabic words may have more than 1 syllable, that receive the secondary stress, the primary stress and the secondary stress. Let's look at the slide now for better understanding and better concentration. The example patterns of 3-syllabic words are words such as animal, where we have stress, unstress, unstress pattern that is followed. Let's look at the cursor where I am placing. And then we have words followed with disgraceful as one of the examples, where we follow the pattern where we start by giving it no stress or it is unstressed, this part of the word. Then it is followed with the stressed pattern, and then we unstress the part of the word. Unstressed, and then we have words such as Chicago. So we start with the unstressed pattern, follow it up with a stress pattern, and then we again stress this part of the word. Let's look at this example. Well, we all have examples which are little not so positive. So look at this example, buffalo. We follow it with stress, and then we follow it with the unstressed pattern. Then there is a follow up again with the stress pattern. So to keep in mind, this is how the words are pronounced. Then let's look at the last example, electric. Again it follows a pattern of stress, stress, unstress. So it starts with stress, stress, and again unstress. Okay. So let's move on to better understand more examples out here. Some stress patterns for 4-syllable words are as follows. Let's look at these words. Questionable. The pronunciation is questionable. I follow it with a stress as part of this word, and then I do not stress, I do not stress, and I do not stress. So basically the stress is on the first part of the word. And then disgracefully. Now this follows a pattern of, the part of the first part of the word, first syllable is unstressed, and then we stress the other part of the syllable, then we do not stress this syllable with a unstressed syllable again. We have a word accomplishment, where we do not stress accomplishment as a word for simple reason. It starts with a schwa, like we have already discussed. Schwa is the unstressed syllable in English language, and then we follow it up with a stress pattern, then part of the other syllable again which is stressed, and which is followed with a unstressed pattern. We have another word called aromatic. To keep in mind, not every word which starts with A has a schwa in it. Let's look at this pronunciation. We give the, we start the pronunciation with air sound, where we are stressing that, then it is unstressed, followed with a part of the syllable which is stressed with an unstressed technique again. Last example for the day for this particular multi-syllabic word, obesity, starts with a schwa, unstressed completely, then with a stressed syllable B, and followed with unstressed syllable with an unstressed syllable again. So these were the set of examples like we have discussed. I want your concentration here on what I am going to talk about. Not every word which starts with A has will take a stress, because it might have a schwa or it might not have a schwa. In case it happens to have a schwa, certainly the word or the part of the syllable is unstressed. If it takes the other sound such as the air sound, such as a sound, then it certainly can be stressed based on the word pronunciation rule. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So the advice is list down all the monosyllabic words that you know of, or maybe you can think of. Start looking at things around you, and I'm sure there can be a number of words that can come up. For the sake of example, list down monosyllabic word, and then list down bisyllabic word followed with multisyllabic word. We have already discussed a syllable which, a monosyllabic word is a word which has one syllable, a bisyllabic word is a word which has two syllables, and anything beyond two syllable is your multisyllabic words. So look up to the words around you in the environment, the things around you, list down on monosyllabic list, bisyllabic list and your multisyllabic list. Start observing the primary stress pattern and the secondary stress pattern. That can certainly help you to get this information correct. So let's wrap up this particular video tutorial because we are almost towards the end of the session. All you're supposed to do is identify what's the syllables in a word and see where the primary stress is and the secondary stress is. So this brings to the end of this particular part of the topic on syllable stress. We would again be back with the continuation of same topic, and I would suggest if you have any specific questions or anything that you want our assistance at, we have a team of experts. We will certainly would like to give you the response and solution to it. So thank you for watching.